everyone, my name is Danielle and I'm here to talk about anxiety and what we can do to have less of it in our lives. If you're anything like me, I would definitely love to have less anxiety. So before talking about how we can decrease the anxiety that we feel in our lives, I first want to talk about what anxiety actually is. So, anxiety is a physiological response to a threat. So, all that means is, your body actually responds when it perceives something or someone as a threat. It's also a sequence of hormonal changes that happen in the body. I know for myself, when thinking about anxiety, there have been times where I've thought of it as this abstract concept that doesn't really exist in reality. It's just in my mind, it's only in my emotions, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. Anxiety is a physical reality. It's a reaction that happens in our bodies. And I think that there's this expectation with anxiety that if only we had enough mental power or mental strength, we could just find the off switch for anxiety. That's also not true. Once your body is in the anxious state, there are some really awesome skills that you can learn to deactivate that. However, it's not something that just comes automatically to us unless we're taught, and that's why I'm here. Also, wanted to tell you that the problem isn't that we feel anxiety. Our bodies need to respond to threats. The problem with anxiety is that if what we perceive as a threat isn't really a threat, or our response to the threat is out of proportion in its intensity, frequency, and duration. So I'll give you an example. For example, you're taking a test and you feel a few butterflies in your stomach. That's okay. The test, you're perceiving that as a threat because there's something on the line. Maybe it's for a class or maybe it's for a certification. So you know the risk of not passing it, and that's okay. It's good to be aware of the risk, and if you have just enough anxiety, that will hopefully motivate you to study for the test. In another scenario, if you had so much anxiety that your hands were shaking, body response, and you were breathing really heavy, and you felt like you couldn't breathe, and your mind went blank, and you couldn't complete the test, that would then become a problem. And that's a problem because the intensity, how much you're feeling it, and the duration, the fact that it's lasting the whole test and it's not being alleviated as you start to begin the test, is out of proportion to what's actually going on. So now that we've established that anxiety is not some emotion that you can just turn off with an off switch, it's not something that is just an attitude and has no physical reality, I would just want to share with you how it does affect your body and why it affects your body that way. So first, when we have anxiety, sometimes we say, I feel butterflies in my stomach. Well, I want you to know that that's not just a cute little saying that some little kid made up. It is an actual physical reality. What's happening is blood is being diverted away from your digestive organs because the last thing you need to do when you're anxious is digest your food. Another thing that happens sometimes when we're anxious, maybe that happened to you as a little kid, is sometimes you can wet yourself. And the reason for that is because our bladders actually relax when we're feeling anxious. We need the energy to go to our other muscle groups so that we can either fight off the threat or we can run away from it. And then also another thing that happens is our breathing gets really quick and really shallow. So the reason that happens is because we need more oxygen to our bodies to be able to respond. And lastly, our thoughts begin to race because we're trying to respond quickly to the threat. So our mind's going at super speed to assess and evaluate what's going on. And then that becomes a problem when we're actually needing to think through something and not just have our thoughts going a million miles an hour through our mind. So I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to share how your body responds and why it responds that way so that you can know that if you're having more anxiety during COVID-19, if you're having more anxiety with the return of school, you are normal. Your body is reacting the way that it's designed to react. And I want you to just lend yourself some compassion because your body's just doing everything in its power to keep you safe. And before we leave, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. Am I holding myself to an unrealistic expectation during this time, during COVID-19, during the return of school, where parents and kids are more activated than ever as far as in terms of anxiety? So that unrealistic expectations can look like, oh, well, I should be doing better. I should know how to handle this. My kids should know how to handle this. So ask yourself, am I holding myself to unrealistic expectations? Secondly, if you're struggling with anxiety, to ask yourself, how would I respond to a friend who was feeling the same anxiety in the same situation? How would I show them kindness? How would I be there for them? And then do those things for yourself, because sometimes it's a lot easier for us to know exactly how to respond to a friend, and we struggle to even respond to ourselves with that same kindness. So I hope that helps give you some understanding of anxiety, what it is, why we have it, and hopefully you can lend yourself some compassion during this time. See you next time.